everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers postgame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Bill Matz. Yeah, why not?
Woo! I was waiting for it, Bill. I was like on the edge of my seat here.
This is Flyperble's Steve Jakob. And yeah, Steve, I was like, do we still do it? Like, is it still... You know, now that we're all kind of team tank.
There's never a bad time for a woo. And look, I'm like, here's how I'm thinking about this all right now mentally, Bill, is like, it's cool if they win sometimes, right? Like, let's enjoy it.
Well, they're never going to lose like the final 20, you know?
They were never going to, I know people were like joking about it, but they weren't going to lose the final 20. So like, let's enjoy it when they win, but let's also enjoy it when they lose. Let's have our cake and eat it too.
And it's, like we said this going back to last year, like if it wins, and it would be nice if TK like started scoring a little bit, but
Sure
like
would.
if this was all just like TK and Sanheim, then really what's the point? But when it's
right, we've seen that movie.
When it's
we've
like,
seen it.
Yeah, man, Bobby Brink 3-point night. It's hard to be upset about. Yeah, one of the guys that we need to be good is good. It's hard to be upset even if you are on the tank. I did want to use our Sixers guys, like Army helmets they've been wearing as commanders,
I was prepared, 100%.
Commanders of the tank.
I was ready.
But not tonight. Not tonight as the Flyers win 4-3 in a shootout over the Tampa Bay Lightning. 2-0 against Tampa this year. Both shootout wins.
Just like we drew it up. We all knew it was going to happen.
I was in the final, like, I don't know, 30 seconds of regulation, final minute of regulation. It really kind of felt like a heartbreaker was coming. Like,
oh, we're sitting here in the PHLY studios, folks, and Bill and I are just saying to each other, here's the heartbreaker.
Here it comes.
Here. It just didn't happen. And then overtime, I mean, the first 2 minutes of overtime, Tampa Bay was entirely
in the
Flyer zone.
The entire first 2 minutes, Flyers didn't really get a ton of possession. They had a few chances in the OT, but this is what really struck me about tonight's game. So Ryan Poehling makes it 3-2 with like a minute left in the third period, Steve. And courtesy of Jordan Hall at NBC Sports Philly, he tweets, "This is the Flyers' second lead of this 7-game homestand. They also led 1-0 in the Kraken game. That was game 3 of the homestand. Tonight is game 6 of the 7. Is that all? They've had 3 leads, winning tonight, which is really like, you know, it's the shootout. Their 3-2 lead that they blew, and a 1-0 lead that they obviously blew against Seattle. It's been a rough homestand. They will not go winless, and the streak, shockingly, the losing streak will not reach 10 games. I was positive we had a 10-gamer. I thought we really had it in us.
Oh, they had it in them, but well, I guess they didn't tonight. I guess they said, not today, Satan, and they got together, and they had a great effort from beginning to end. I mean, I thought the second period, they were going to fall apart like they always do. They thoroughly outshot the Lightning tonight. The final shot total was 29-20, and that includes the 2 minutes in overtime when they were pinned in their zone. I didn't think they were going to get out of the zone, but they played a good game. I mean, like they came to play tonight. The line shakeup seemed to work, and you know, Bill, I got to give you a lot of credit tonight, my friend. You said in pregame that this was a real night of prove it for Bobby Brink. And Bobby Brink proved it big time.
It was an opportunity. And listen, like, it's not as if playing with Cates and Forster as, you know, one of the top 2 lines wasn't a great opportunity for him, but this was a different opportunity. It was an opportunity to play with some other guys and show he's not just, you know, the third dude or, you know, a nice role player on that line for kind of Cates and Forster to drive. He's a driving force himself of it. And you see what happens tonight. 3 points for a line that we've been like, yeah, what's TK supposed to do? And I'm going to joke with Charlie and be like, so it was TK holding those guys back, huh?
I'm already picturing the look on his face. Like, it's embedded in my brain.
He's just going to shake his head and not say anything. I know
the look. Yeah. I've seen it.
But, like, this was an opportunity for Brink. And, my God, like, TK, the shootout, I am now convinced someone put a hex on Travis Konecny. He gets a triple doink in the shootout. Somehow the puck stays out of the net. Just He's just, there's snake bitten, and then there's whatever the hell's going on with TK right now.
That's a shot you can't make if you try. Like, that is some mousetrap BS right there. That's like Jordan shooting through the golden arches into Grimace's mouth for the, like, it's impossible to do, and he did it.
I just can't imagine hitting my spot so well that it actually worked against me. And I find that more impressive. Honestly, that should have counted.
It should have counted. I mean, style points. What are we doing? The shootout is a skills competition.
Yeah.
So why not have style points?
It's if you're playing posts, he hit all 3 on one shot. Like that's Happy Gilmore to win the gold jacket right there.
Sure is.
But of course, it doesn't actually count because it didn't cross the line. Just ridiculous.
Why isn't TK in Happy Gilmore too? I think he should be after that shot there.
It would have worked. This was the Flyers, Steve, 19th overtime game. I'm pretty sure you've been here for at least half of them.
At least. I knew this game was going to go to overtime. As soon as I knew I was coming into the studio, I'm like, it's going to overtime. It's happening.
It is very funny, though. They're 5-3 in shootouts. Now, I have always been a fan of the shootout. Apparently, I am in a very small minority.
Bill, this is my dirty confession. I'm with you. I
think they're cool. They're dramatic.
I think it's fun. I think it's more fun than a tie.
Like, if they went away, I wouldn't, protest outside the league office. But I think it's a fine way to end a game after overtime. Should they extend 3-on-3? Sure, go ahead. But I like it. I think it's fun. And now that the Flyers are good at them, I'm not going to take away from them something that they struggled for the first 18 years in doing. But and now in the last 2, they're actually kind of good.
That said, I would happily reverse fortunes to where the Flyers are terrible at shootouts, but good overall.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Because that's how it was.
Yeah.
The Flyers were pretty good, terrible at shootouts. Now they're pretty good at shootouts and terrible overall.
I don't want to take away a dramatic part. Like, shooter coming in, you don't know what he's going to do. Game on the line. Like, you need the save. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't trade that 2010 last game of the season for anything. That was really cool.
One of the greatest moments in our Flyers' lives.
If that continues,
in the last, 20 years.
If that continues into overtime, they probably lose, and we don't get the only run we've had in the last, in the 2000s.
Correct. Well, and now we got an ace in the hole, Bill. Matvei Michkov, who is, my God, that guy. I love Matvei Michkov so much. And I love just
stone cold.
He is stone cold. He has ice in his veins, and the celebrations, man. He rubs your face in it a little bit, and I have wanted that dirty attitude from a Flyer for a long time.
I really like how he kind of asked the fans, no, man, come on,
let's
bring
go.
It up.
He's the man.
He is a delight. Another big shot performance for him. A lot of attempts, 4 shots on goal. Led the team with Coots. I will say, the bad angle shots in overtime, they need to stop because they're turnovers. I'm fine with them in regulation, 5-on-5. I think that's good. Try to catch the goalie off guard. He did have I guess it was the Ottawa overtime winner, but that was more like the goalie was just kind of sleeping. The bad angle shot in overtime, there is no support. If you have the puck down low, that means the closest guy is probably in the high slot. It's a turnover.
Right.
And that kind of annoys me, and it's a little thing about this team that this is their 19th overtime game, and they still make mistakes like that.
Well, I'm thinking of early in the season, Travis Sanheim just recklessly slamming into the boards, and then the other team going back with a 2-on-none.
They do some weird stuff in overtime, but doesn't kill them tonight. They get it to the shootout. I think the first guy I want to highlight after Mish, because he had, I thought, a decent game. Like we said, he not quite as electric as he was right out of Four Nations, but he's also not invisible the way he was a lot during that slump. It's just sometimes you score, sometimes you don't. I love that he's taken on the shooting mentality Michkov has, because the passing, the setups, they've been great, but I don't know, man, let's rack up some goals here. And I like that he's shooting a lot more.
I like that a lot too. I mean, somebody's got to shoot this puck on the team. And this has been a Flyers problem since Jeff Carter got traded.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to shoot on this team.
It's just Owen Tippett, and he misses the net usually.
Correct. I did want to mention one thing with Bobby Brink before we moved on from him. Just an electric night from Bobby Brink. Too electric at times, because he scores the first goal, then he takes 2 penalties.
Yeah.
And it's Tortorella's going to throw him right back in the doghouse.
And but he comes out of the box.
Gets a beautiful goal. Absolutely gorgeous goal from Bobby Brink there with the backhand. And it was fantastic. Then he gets a great assist on the Paling goal. So Bobby Brink giveth, Bobby Brink taketh. But overall, a very productive night. And you know what? I'll take the energy and I'll take the creativity from him.
And Bobby Brink, he's gonna be our Ace Hardware temperature check guy tonight. Let's take a look at which Flyer is heating up or cooling off with our Ace Hardware temp check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. And it is Bobby Brink with his second career 3-point game. He actually doesn't have any 3-point games. It was a 4 a couple of weeks ago against the Pens, I believe. But this is he has the 3 points tonight, 2 goals and an assist on the Paling goal. He was everywhere tonight. And to your point about the penalties, like you look at his box score, he's got numbers all the way across: 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points, +3, 4 PIMs, over 16 minutes, 23 shifts, 2 shots on goal, 2 blocks, 3 hits. That's a hell of a night.
That's a great
hell of a night for Bobby Brink, and he is certainly heating up. I think he has like 10 points in his last 9 games, so he's been good lately. He's our Ace Hardware temperature check player, and yeah, I am impressed with the season he is having. He's at 10 goals and 32 points now with 15 games left. How much more can we really expect? Bobby Brink to me is going to be a perfectly fine depth scoring player. I think he's rounded out his game, that he's really good along the boards. He's a good forechecker. He wins battles. 3 hits tonight. He's a lot more physical than you'd expect from a guy of his size. He's rounding into kind of the player I expected, and considering he plays 14 minutes a night, pretty damn good.
No, I like.
And there's not a functional power play for him to pad his stats on.
That's the thing. If he had a functional power play, I think his numbers would be much better.
He'd be at 40 points now.
Well, I think he's, most nights, I think he's the second best creative player with the puck behind Michkov. Because that's the thing the Flyers really lack right now, in the post-Giroux era, is creativity with the puck. They have guys who can score, Travis Konecny can score, but I wouldn't exactly call him the most creative guy out there.
No, his 40+ assist season is kind of oh, really?
Oh, really?
Huh.
Yeah, okay. How about that? But Brink's trying stuff out.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work, right? He's very experimental out there, same with Michkov. But when it does work, it's glorious.
No, and he's still a developing guy. A couple of years in the USHL, 3 years of college. Bobby Brink, even though he's almost 24, still borderline prospect, despite, this is his second full season in the league. And this is kind of the role I envision for him, a really nice third line depth scorer for you. Maybe he can be, your guy on the right wall handling the puck on your second power play or something like that. But I kind of thought it would take a little longer to get here because, a few weeks ago, I'm just asking Charlie about the scoring with Bobby Brink. It's not all the way there yet. You look at the numbers, it's not great, but I think he's rounded out his game enough that he's earned the coach's trust to develop the scoring aspect as well. And we're seeing it now. I think it's 10 points in his last 9 games. He's been really good for them.
This is a guy who could be a really good part of the Flyers moving forward because you do need depth scoring. You need guys with creativity on the power play. And it's just good to have guys with a little feist in them, a little fire. Also, he's from Minnetonka, Minnesota. How can you beat that there?
You need some good Minnesota boys on your team.
Good Minnesota boys. And again, I'll be Matt Reed, but I'm liking what I'm seeing for Bobby Brink. I mean, he's already past his point total from last season, right? So he's well past it already.
Yes,
it's fantastic, and he could be a solid little player for this team for years moving forward. I mean, they're not all going to be top 6 players, right?
No, you need the depth scoring too. These just because they don't have, a fully functional top 6 doesn't mean, oh, well, Bobby Brink's not that, so he's not no, he's going to play a role, or he's good enough that you can include for a trade to get one of those players that you need so badly at the top of this lineup.
Sure.
If he's a 20-point guy, you get nothing for him. If he's a 40-point guy, suddenly teams are looking that's a real nice part of a package for a star player.
Now, this is a very different player I'm going to mention here, but if you think about James Van Riemsdyk, right? Where did James Van Riemsdyk really make his bread and butter with the Toronto Maple Leafs? Third line and power play. That can be a very useful player. He was a very useful player for the Leafs when he was in that role. When he came to the Flyers and they didn't use him like that, well, it didn't work out very well, but it worked out well for the Leafs. And again, Brink is a very different player. The size differential alone is just crazy different between the two of them.
But I think it's an apt comparison. you need guys to play roles. Like you need to. It's big part of team building. And when you look, like, say he tops out, say he becomes like a 50-point guy, Bobby Brink. Well, if you have a 50-point guy on your third line, that means you have a really good third line.
Yes.
Like,
and that's the big difference between building like a basketball team and a hockey team. Basketball team, you need like what, 7? You need like 5 good guys, right? And you need a couple depth players. Like a hockey team, you need to fill out at least 3 solid lines, and then you need at least 2 really good defensive pairings. And that's not even including goaltenders. Like you need a ton of guys to really work. So you need guys like Bobby Brink to come through ultimately. And this could be just a super valuable part of this team in the next few years.
all right, before we go any further, I got to tell you about a couple of our sponsors. Let's lead it off with our friends at Ace Hardware Home Services, because at Ace Hardware Home Services, whenever they get ready for the next job, they remember what to bring. That's right. They bring experience. They're local plumbers and techs that handle everything from repairs and seasonal maintenance to installations and upgrades. They bring understanding. They listen to your goals, and the job isn't completed until you're satisfied. And they bring helpful. They bring helpful to your home so you can spend more of your time on the projects that really matter. Free estimates on equipment installation and replacements with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and budget. Service you can trust and satisfaction. Ace Hardware Home Services, they're local. Their teams live and serve in your community, and they're dedicated to keeping their neighbors comfortable in their homes. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. And while we are here, you know I love my Shady Rays. That's right. It's heating up here in Philly. It's always sunny here in Philadelphia. And Shady Rays is providing you with the shades to get you in the right frame of mind as summer approaches. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their sunglasses have durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. I tell you all the time, I wear my Shady Rays every single day. I keep a pair in my car just so I know I have one there. I have a pair in my house for going outside, doing yard work and whatnot. Whatever it is, I have my Shady Rays. You got to check them out. And for PHLY viewers and listeners, you got to go to shadyrays.com right now and save 35% off polarized sunglasses with code PHLY. Over 300,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars. So use code PHLY today at shadyrays.com. I want to talk about Ersson a little bit because I've been pretty critical of him lately. He was on a really bad stretch coming out of 4 Nations. He was like sub 850 save percentage. Tonight, I wouldn't say he was great. He was Tampa's second goal that, I don't know if it was a rebound or it kind of bounced out. It looked like he had it squared up, but it just kind of snuck under him. The Atkinson goal, it was a nice shot, and he is completely unchecked in the slot, so you probably should score from there.
I mean, I think they were considering that Cam Atkinson has been like cooked for years now, that they were like, well, he's cooked. Let's just let him take a shot. I mean, let's be nice to Cam Atkinson. He used to play here, apparently.
Yeah, he got the nice tribute video. Apparently, I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to the Kuzmenko tribute video.
Oh, the Kuzmenko tribute. It might play. It actually might play for as long as he played here.
Yes, it's every shift. But I thought he was okay. Like it was
enough to
goal,
get the
probably clean, and then in overtime in the shootout, obviously he stepped up huge. Makes a bunch of saves in both. I thought he really took his game. Kind of looked like good Sam again in the overtime and shootout, and that's good for him because again he's a guy who's going to be around, But obviously the number's ugly, 850 tonight, because defense was good. They only gave up 20 shots to the Lightning, but a couple of breakdowns here and there. They scored the 3, but I have few complaints about Sam just based on what we had seen prior.
Right. I mean, even without Nikita Kucherov, the Lightning still have some firepower. They still have some shooters. Jake Gensel, I mean, this guy scored a ton of goals in this league. Braden Point is ridiculous. Like, what a great player. He's one of those guys that I would just like kill to have on my team. He's just,
that was my dream offer sheet target a few years ago was Braden Point, but didn't work out. Wouldn't you just kill to hit those guys in like the second and third round the way they've been able to?
That's why they're so successful. I mean, they have found gold in those second and third rounds that other teams haven't been able to find. And I mean, good on them. But you know, looking at Gensel, I think that first Ersson save in the shootout
Yeah.
was on Jake Gensel. He, you know, did a little bit of the glove flash and everything. It was real nice. So I mean, that's a confidence builder right there. So build on this, Sammy.
And now we are joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center after the Flyers' first win in like a month and a half. Charlie, thoughts on the game and any standout quotes from the coach or players?
Yeah, nothing too earth-shattering in terms of the room, in terms of what Torts said. Torts, understandably, was very complimentary of Bobby Brink. Obviously, he had a great game. He was everywhere. I think for me, you're just coming out of this game, this is kind of where, from my perspective, like being around the team gives me, I wouldn't say a different perspective, but like I can understand why a lot of fans are watching these games and going full into, well, you know, it would be actually good if they lose because draft picks and whatnot. And like, I get it. I don't think that's an irrational way to watch, especially given the fact that the playoffs look like they're essentially out of reach at this point. I think even the players realize that. But like, when you're around the team on a daily basis and you see how down they are about the fact that they just can't buy a win, even the last couple games, they played pretty well. They just couldn't buy a win. And you can't help but just kind of, I'm not saying like root for them from a fan perspective, but just root for like the losing streak to end so they're just not so down all the time. So from my perspective, like I get it that maybe winning isn't the greatest thing in the world at this point because draft picks matter. Getting that first line center of the future, or at least a shot at getting that first line center of the future, that matters. When you're around the team daily, though, it's really hard to look at it from that perspective because, like, these are people that I like working around. I won't even say, like, working with because we're not, like, employed by the same company, but you see them on a daily basis. And honestly, it's much better when you're dealing with guys who aren't completely miserable. So for me, it's like, look, I don't think this team's going to win a ton of games the rest of the way. I just don't think they have the horses to do it. But I'm glad that this 5-game losing streak didn't become a 15-game losing streak. Let me put it that way.
No, after the game, as we're wrapping up, we're about to come in the studio. We Steve and I hear Bush say, you know, they really needed this one. We're like, did they? And it was like, you know what? Good for them. Like, I didn't need this personally. I would have been fine with a regulation loss. But one, they were never going to lose like the final 20. Like, that doesn't really happen. And two, it does suck to lose. Like, and I don't want these guys to become accepting of losing. I do want it to suck for them and to try to win. I just don't want them to do it a ton. I still don't think they're capable of it, like you said.
Well, and I think about like the guys like Bobby Brink and Matvei Michkov, and you don't want them just dealing with this miserable stuff every night. And, you know, Bobby Brink in particular, obviously fantastic night for him, 23 years old. You know, what kind of a building block does this put together for Brink, you know, as far as like having, I guess, a more of a spark in his NHL career moving forward?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about wins in these meaningless games is that, look, I totally understand the impetus behind like, well, more losses, better draft picks. But by the same token, like there is a correlation between young guys on the team that you need to develop having good games and the team winning more games. Because if young guys have good games, that means they contributed probably on the score sheet. And if they contributed on the score sheet, there's probably a better chance that the team wins the game because they have at least one of their talented young players having a really strong game. So while you don't necessarily want to like necessarily root for them to go on a winning streak that just makes them draft 14th for no reason, you do want the young guys to play well. You do. And when young guys play well, sometimes you win just as a byproduct of a young guy playing well. Bobby Brink had a really good game. I know he took 2 penalties, but to me, the penalties were the result of him being engaged in the game. You know, he was active. He was noticeable. He was doing stuff from the opening shift of the game. And yeah, you'd like to see him avoid the penalties, but I think the penalties are a byproduct. And the goals that he scored were also a byproduct of the jump he was playing with, the assist. I mean, he's the guy racing down the ice to get to that puck, to set up that play. Now, great pass by Luxell, great finish by Poehling, but that play doesn't happen if Bobby Brink isn't playing with jump. And that's not just skill, that's jump. And that's what John Tortorella said after the game, is that he's a small guy. He's never going to be the biggest guy in the world. And maybe at one point in his career, he never thought he could learn how to check. effectively enough for it to be a part of his game, really. He's learned how to check well enough that, look, he's never going to be, he's not going to be Marty St. Louis where like, oh, he's small, but he can win every puck battle. Like, it's never going to be Bobby Brink. But he's gotten to the point where he can win a fair amount of them, and way more than you would expect for a guy his size. And it's really impressive to see the progression in his game, what he's added to his game. I've said it on the show a few times. I think what makes me the most intrigued by the development of Brink's game is that I don't know what he's going to ultimately be offensively. But what I think adding this, I wouldn't even call it two-way. I'll just call it like an edge, some bite to his game. That gives him the runway for us to be able to spend the next 2-3 years figuring out what he's going to be offensively, because even when he's not scoring, he's still providing something. Whereas if he was just a 35 to 40 point guy who all he was doing was scoring, and when he wasn't scoring, he was invisible, I don't know if he gets the runway. He might get Morgan Frosted at some point. But Brink is playing with the kind of bite, with the kind of not even physicality, but just edge that I think he's earned himself the ability to, over the next couple of years, the Flyers give him time to figure out how good of an offensive player he can be, and that's exciting.
I wonder how long we're going to be using Morgan Frost as a verb. All right, Charlie, this is my main question for you. You mentioned obviously Brink, but playing with Lycksell and Poehling tonight. So clearly, what we need to know, what we need to get to the bottom of, was TK actually holding back Lycksell and Poehling? Because all three had strong games tonight. I don't know, common denominator here.
It is kind of ironic, weird that they clearly moved TK up to try to get him going, so they moved Brink down, and instead it gets Brink going. That was wild. Look, I don't think that it says that TK was dragging those two guys down, but you're watching Travis Konecny right now. This is a guy that is in his own head. This is a guy who, he's thinking down when he should be thinking up. He's thinking left when he should be thinking right. Like, he just seems like he is beyond snake bitten, to the point where he is so frustrated with himself that it's making his game even worse. And look, it would have been so nice for him to just get a goal on that shootout, because he beats the goalie. And I thought it went off 2 posts. I guess did the broadcast slow it down to show it went off 3?
Yeah, he got all 3. He won a game of posts on 1 shot, but unfortunately, that's not what they're doing in shootouts.
Yeah, I had a bunch of people on Twitter saying no, it was 3, and I'm like, I guess the broadcast slowed it down to show it was 3, because live it looked like 2.
Yeah, it got both on the elbow on the way out. It was honestly, there's snake bitten, and then there's whatever the hell's going on. There's a hex on him. I'm convinced it's not a slump. It's not anything to do with him. There's someone jinxed him. He got cursed by a witch. I don't know, Charlie.
Those infamous South Philly witches.
You never know. You never know. Chuck, we were just saying before you came on, I wouldn't say Ersson was great tonight. The Tampa's second goal, it looks like he's lined up and it just squeaks under him. Cam Atkinson completely unchecked in the slot, but still, I don't know, make a save on a clean shot. But I thought in overtime in the shootout, he really stepped up. What did you think of Ersson's play tonight?
He was better. I agree. He wasn't a standout. Like, he wouldn't make one of my 3 stars, even if I remove all of the Tampa Bay Lightning players from the pool to pick from. But he was good enough. And I thought the Flyers were the better team in this game. I tweeted that out midway through the third period. Like, the Flyers deserved to be winning this game. They outplayed the Tampa Bay Lightning. They did. And it would have been an extra bummer for the guys after they outplay a playoff team and then lose to them too. Like, it's like, oh, we're 0-6 in this homestand and we just outplayed the Lightning. What are you going to do? So that was another reason why I was happy for them that they got rewarded for their strong play. But Ersson definitely was helped by the fact that he didn't have to be the one to hold down the fort. The Flyers control the territorial play in this game, in aggregate. He made some tough saves. He came up big in the shootout, I would say. He came up big in overtime. But for him, he wasn't asked to win the game for the Flyers. He was asked not to lose it. And he proved up to that task. Hopefully this is the start of him maybe, being able to build himself back up into a guy who can win the Flyers a game. Right now, all he had to do was not lose them a game, and he succeeded. Hopefully that's the start of him building his game back up.
Now, Charlie, one of the guys we're still figuring out is Jakob Pelletier. At least saw a play by the net out of him tonight, but I'm still trying to figure out what this guy is. What have you seen from him, and do you think he should get a shot in the top 9 anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what he is as well. I don't think the Flyers really know. It's a weird situation, and I asked Tortorella a couple days ago about this, that, how do you handle a player who probably hasn't earned a move up the lineup, but you need to figure out things about him that probably requires you to move him up the lineup, even if he hasn't necessarily like banged the door down to say, well, I should be on the second line. I'm playing that well. And Torts kind of moved away from Pelletier. He was like, well, you look at somebody like Lycksell, he's maybe not established as an NHL player, but we have him with Travis Konecny because we want to see what Lycksell can do. I have to believe that at some point they're going to give Pelletier a look with more talented players. It would be an upgrade just from the jump once Hathaway comes back, because even though Hathaway isn't a super scorer or anything, he's certainly a more effective all-around player than like Nick Delorier. So that would help, just getting that one piece back. But at some point, they're going to have to put him at least with a Paling, maybe put him on a line with, with Owen Tippett, something, or Tyson Forrest, just something, because I agree. He hasn't been that impressive. He is showing flashes here and there, like that play tonight where it's right off the face-off of center ice, and he basically carries the puck all the way down and draws a penalty. That was good. I want to see more of that. He's not showing enough of that, but I do agree that at some point you're going to have to put him on a third line, a second line with some legitimate scoring-type players and see what he can do. He's not showing enough yet, but the help really isn't there either, so it's a tough spot.
And not just the help, just the ice time. Like if you sub, even with Abels, like if you sub out Delorier and put in Hathaway, suddenly that line goes from 5.5 or 6 minutes to 10. Like you can actually at least get a little bit more of a sample size and go, okay, maybe he can earn a little higher in the lineup because he didn't get 8 shifts. But we have, the rest of the next 15 games, I guess, to see if they want to see more of him. Charlie, a couple house cleaning things. Ristolainen's out tonight. We heard he's banged up. Common sense says it's like, oh, hey, we want to get Andre in. We're moving guys in and out of the lineup. This is an easy way to just, give Risto a night off if he's a little banged up and we can still play the guys we want to see. But given his history, something just popping up out of nowhere where he misses a game, little concerning. Do you know anything else about Risto's status?
Phil, I'm not going to lie. This is not something I spent much time digging into today.
Curious.
We were told he was banged up. I know that they want to get Andre in games, so I do think there's going to be something of a rotation. That said, Ristolainen didn't practice either, so there might be something there. But if this is one of those things where, like, if it lingers into the road trip, I'll probably do some more digging. For now, there just isn't as much urgency because the deadline's passed. It's not like they're going to be, they're trying to trade him like they were in the lead up to the deadline. At this point, I'm going to say I'm going to take the Flyers' word. If it's 3-4 days down the road and he's still not out there, then we do some digging.
Just something I was thinking about earlier during the game, something we talked about, I think, in the trade deadline show. I don't know if you were still there or not, about putting an A on someone else's jersey. Have they given it to Sanheim or someone yet? I haven't noticed.
I haven't noticed. My guess is that they won't the rest of the season out of respect for Lawton. That's my assumption, because he's just he was such an integral part of this team, of this leadership group. It would surprise me if they race to replace him as, that second alternate, second assistant captain, whatever you want to call it. But obviously they'll give out another one next year, I would expect.
All right, anything else, Steve?
I just want to know how the heck Travis Konecny got that burst of energy in OT after spending the entire time pinned in his own zone.
No, that was really impressive, and it shows like he's working, he's playing out there. He had some gaps tonight, but overall, it's just ain't working for TK right now. All right, Charlie, it is time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game, presented by Rite Aid. That's right, the Rite Aid 3 stars. Chuck, who is star number 3?
Yeah, star number 3, I'm going to go with Ola Lycksell. 2 really good primary assists. He's a guy, and I have this already in the article I'm writing up on tonight's game. Like, he's a guy where I feel like your view of Ola Lycksell is directly correlated to how many Phantoms games you watch. Because if you watch the Phantoms regularly, you're like, how can this guy not be a good NHL player? He does cool stuff every night for the Phantoms. And if you never watch Phantoms games, you watch him in the NHL and you say, why are people so excited about this guy? He doesn't look like an NHL caliber player. He looks like a tweener. Tonight, he looked like the guy that the people who watch the Phantoms on a nightly basis believe him to be. And that's exciting. And I'm intrigued to see what he can do over these final 15 games, because it seems like this is going to be the first time he's going to get a real extended look without having to worry about getting sent down if he has a bad game. Maybe it clicks for him. And if it doesn't, he's a UFA at the end of the season, and you can comfortably wave goodbye and say no hard feelings. You just couldn't crack the lineup here. But at least for the next month, he's going to get a long look. And if he shows that he's more like the guy who showed up tonight over the next 15 games, maybe he does get a new contract. Who knows? We'll excel. Third star of the game.
Who's star number 2?
Ryan Poehling. Really strong game. It seems like he's back in form. You started to see it this past weekend, where you're like, oh yeah, that looks like the Poehling from before the severe concussion. Tonight was the best game he's played by far since coming back from the concussion. The speed. I love the fact that he gets stopped on that breakaway, and then ends of the same period, he's at the exact same post, and you could just tell he's thinking to himself, there's no way I'm letting him beat me back to this post this time. That was cool. Really strong game by Poehling. Did great work with Brink and Lexell. Second star of the game.
All right, and I don't think there's much question about who tonight's first star of the game is.
Yeah, it's obviously Bobby Brink. Fantastic game. 2 goals and assist. Obviously an integral part in all 3 plays. The goals, obviously, but even the secondary assist he got, that play doesn't happen if he doesn't chase down that loose puck and get the puck over to Lexell. So Brink, strong game. Love the fact that he cracked double digits in goals. I mentioned to Tortorella after the game, I was like, it feels like when you watch him, like it feels like he should have more points than he does, right? And it does. It feels like he's had the season of a guy who has 40 points rather than the guy who has 30. But that's just the reality of the situation. Maybe if he can build off this, he can get to 40 by the end of the year. Maybe he can be the late season success story. But even if he doesn't, this was a fantastic game for Brink. And as we talked about at the top of this, Flyers players, maybe the fans didn't, but the players really needed a win. Somebody was going to have to step up to break this. And I got to say, I wouldn't have put my money on Bobby Brink being the guy, but I love the fact that he did. Bobby Brink, first star of the game.
Someone has to step up. That was a theme of the broadcast tonight, and someone did. Bobby Brink tonight. All right, that is Charlie O'Connor. Those are his Rite Aid 3 stars. Chuck, we will talk to you, Saturday for Saturday's pre and post. We will see you then, my friend.
All right. See you guys.
All right. That was Charlie O'Connor. And before we get to the last part of tonight's show, I got to tell you about a couple of our sponsors, starting with our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And we took a little bit of a beating tonight on our player props on Travis Konecny. And of course, as I say this, the NHL box score goes away. So I don't know if Tyson Forster got his 3 shots that we needed, but I don't think he did. He missed the net a couple times, had one blocked by Hedman. So I would be a little bit shocked. But regardless, whether you win or lose, I think you should be placing your bets at Bet365. It's been my sportsbook of choice for a couple of years now, and I am a big fan. And right now, we have breaking news from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5, win or lose. All you got to do is sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or someone who knows a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while we are here, I got to tell you about our friends at TrueMark Financial. It's almost spring, and that means it's time to spring into savings. If you have financial goals, whether it's buying a house, taking that dream vacation, or building your emergency fund, TrueMark Financial Credit Union has the perfect savings account for you. TrueMark Financial offers high-rate certificates and money market accounts to help your money grow faster and work hard for you. Visit TrueMark.com for rates and to learn more. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Rates are subject to change.
Now, Bill, that would be 2 shots for Tyson Foster. 2 shots tonight.
One short.
I will say, one of the guys that, okay, so when you're putting your bets together for Saturday, I would consider Sean Couturier in there because Sean Couturier had quite a night. 4 shots tonight. I noticed a lot of them in the offensive zone. He got some really good opportunities in the crease. Coots could get.
That's that line with Coots, Michkov, and Tippett. The scoring's gone away a little bit the last few games, but I remember a couple games ago they were saying they have more even strength goals than any line since Four Nations. Like, they have been getting plenty of opportunities. You don't score every night, so maybe that is something to look at. Maybe a little Sean Couturier action, because he's in and around the net. He's right there a lot. He's crashing. He's putting himself in position for Michkov. He's there to get rebounds off of Tippett. That line has been working pretty well, at least in the offensive zone.
4 shots for Couturier, 4 shots for Michkov, 3 shots for Owen Tippett tonight. So they were getting shots. They just
plenty
didn't
of
put the puck
opportunity.
They didn't put the biscuit in the basket, but they were getting it there.
I want to get back to the something I just asked Charlie about, the Rasmus Ristolainen injury, because it's just been something that has been a fear of mine. It was like in December, I was like, trade him now. Don't wait till the deadline, because if he gets hurt, he has no value. Now, like Charlie said, it'd be crazy just in this situation that they're in, the way the season is going, how they want to work into their defenseman. If he's a little banged up, why play him when it's like, well, we have to sit someone anyway. Why not give the guy a night off who we've been giving 20 minutes a night since, halfway through the season? But given his history in particular, where it just seems like, yeah, something just popped up with him. He's day to day or week to week. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that was 3 months ago. Like, where did he get kidnapped? Like,
That's what happens with the Flyers.
Eyes? Do we have eyes on Ristolainen? Like, is he safe?
That's what happens with Flyers injuries, Bill. They just like all of a sudden disappear, and these guys are in like witness protection. And weeks later, you're like, what happened to Cam Atkinson?
Yeah.
Oh, he's on the Tampa Bay Lightning? Last I heard he was injured, and now he's on a different team.
But this is now my fear. And again, this might be completely unfounded. He might be right back in there on Saturday and everything's okay. Maybe he is like, yeah, man, just a little banged up and we got to sit someone anyway. But I guess they don't.
It's a justifiable paranoia.
I guess they don't. And like, that's stuff just happens to players on this team and they disappear. Like, we're still paying Ryan Ellis for this year and a few more, like guys just disappear sometimes. And I guess they don't need to trade Risto this offseason, but it kind of feels as if his value is never going to be higher. He's going to play next year at 31. He's never been in the playoffs. He is exactly what playoff teams are looking for. I think the only reason there wasn't much of a market for him is because while the cap is going up, it doesn't give anyone any more cap space right now. But next year, with a substantial increase and teams having more flexibility, I think there could be a really good market for him. And if he limps through this, final 16, 15 games of the season, now suddenly you can't get a great return for a guy who you invested time in turning his career around for this moment, for this specific thing. And if he's hurt, that's a problem for me.
The Flyers have rebuilt Rasmus Ristolainen like RoboCop. He is back. He is better than ever. And I agree with you. Like, this is the time to trade him if you're going to trade him. Like, you either are committing to Rasmus Ristolainen as a Flyer for the rest of his career, or you're trading him. It's one of those two options. I know what John Tortorella would pick, but as we were also discussing in pregame, I don't know how much longer necessarily, like, that coaching staff is going to, like, Danny Briere didn't hire John Tortorella, right? And we don't know that when he moves into his Flyers 2.0 or whatever he's calling it on his big board that he keeps in his office, that I presume he has, like, is John Tortorella a part of that? Is Rasmus Ristolainen a part of that? And if you're going to trade him, if they are not a part of that, specifically Risto, the draft is when you have to make that deal. It's going up. Guess what? Oh, there's draft picks in play at the draft. How about that? Like, that's the time to make that deal. And yeah, I am very concerned with his injury history of him having a potential lingering issue or something. And you don't want to shelve him because you still need to showcase him. It's actually an extended showcase, if you will. But yeah, it's a little scary.
And that's if there is some concern about taking on, even with the cap going up, like a guy at over $5 million for 2 more seasons. it would be, well, how available is this guy going to be for me as he now moves into his 30s?
Just get him in the playoffs.
His age 31 and 32 season.
Just get him in the playoffs.
Yeah, everyone's going to need a playoff Risto.
Playoff Risto.
But he's got to be healthy to do that.
I know I asked this the other day. But how do you make it this long in your NHL career and not make the dang playoffs?
It's
because half the league makes it.
Every year.
Half the league makes it.
It's really unfortunate.
How do you not make it?
It's really unfortunate that he just spent such an amount of time in Buffalo and then joined the Flyers for the bottoming out. Like, they're going to tie their franchise record a 5th straight year out of the playoffs. Like, that's just a shame. That's just a shame for you, bud.
I was reminiscing earlier with someone in the BSH Slack about like the disaster season. Well, first we talked about the good season, the 05-06 season. That was a lot of fun. And then 06-07, I'm like, yeah, it was really bad. But that was an anomaly at the time.
Yeah.
Now it's like the norm.
No, it was
like
only
every year just sucks.
I think it was the only time they missed the playoffs out of like 19.
Yeah.
Like that
we
was
were
it.
very spoiled for a long time, my friend.
We were.
And now we are in hell.
It's really just, I miss playoff hockey so much.
I miss it. And I would, you know what? If they keep him, I'd love to see playoff Risto in the orange and the black, especially the current version, because I enjoy the current version. I enjoy his physicality. That said, I didn't miss him too much tonight.
Listen, they played a pretty decent game. They held
Andre played a pretty good game. Holding some guys up against the boards.
They did, obviously, without Kucherov. It is a bit of a different team, but they still have a lot of really good freaking players.
Point and Gensel alone.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 guys better than anyone we have.
Correct.
Like right there, Victor Hedman. Like they're still stocked with talent, even without
Victor Hedman's better than any Flyers defenseman since Chris Pronger.
Yeah, easily. Without much question. Jakob Pelletier is a guy I did want to talk about. We just asked Charlie about him a few minutes ago.
He did something tonight, Bill.
He did something. He drew penalty skating through contact straight down the middle of the ice off the face-off. And that's some of the, like, I guess, rambunctiousness we were told about. Calgary fans were like, oh, you're going to really like this guy.
You're going to like the way he looks.
That said, we only get, what did he play tonight? 5:30 or 5:56 out of Pelletier. Of course, Delorier plays 5:25. Abels is there at 6:25.
Delorier playing just over what a fighting major gets you.
It's just tough to get a look at Pelletier given not even like the help he has, like I said with Charlie, but with Delorier instead of Hathaway, you just play that line way less. And I like what I've seen out of Abels. He looks like, maybe he's a nice 4th-line player or something. I don't know. Good for him. He's at least getting a taste of the NHL.
I've seen worse 4th-line centers on this team.
But, like, you're just not going to give those guys much ice time. No. If you just sub in Hathaway if and when he gets healthy, I think that'll be a chance to get more of a look at Pelletier in this role. But they have to consider moving him up, even if he hasn't, like, earned it. Just because... use this time to find out. Like, there's 15 games left. They're meaningless. The fans would rather you lose them.
Oh, well, let's move TK down to the 4th line. He can play 5 minutes.
Maybe that'll get him going.
I do not advocate that. Okay, do not hold me on the record for that.
Can you imagine? Can you?
I mean,
yes, it's John Tortorella.
It's John Tortorella. He's a madman.
I say this as if there wasn't once a game in which Joel Farabee played for 56 seconds and then was told to sit on the bench for the next 59 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, John Tortorella is nuts. I'm not holding anything past him. He is just diabolical. I do need to see more of a look at him. I don't think it's going to happen in the next game because you're nuts to break up the line that happened tonight with Lycksell, Paling, and Brink. Like, Brink was making magic out there happen, and Lycksell had a nice game. Lycksell had one of his better games as a Flyer tonight. I do need to see something out of Pelletier at some point.
It was one of the first times we got a flash of that skill from Ula Lycksell because he has looked, as you said, as mostly a tweener in his time here. Like
Matty Campbell, we talk about people watch the Phantoms all the time. Matty Campbell watches Phantoms all the time and loves Ula Lycksell and says like he's good. He is a good hockey player, and I've been wanting to see that. And tonight was like a good glimpse at that. I liked what I saw tonight.
And like as a bottom 6 guy who can contribute a little bit of flash on offense, again, these guys aren't stars. We're not saying, oh, well, rebuild's over. We got to excel. But I do just want to see if he can translate it a little bit and be useful in some regard for this organization after, again, like we spent the assets to draft him. We spent the time to develop him. He's had good years in the AHL. He's kind of proven all there is to prove at the AHL level. We see what he is there. Now it's, can you stick? Can you be an every night player? Are you an NHL player at all? This is the first time I saw him and was like, all right, there's something here.
He was cooking tonight. I like that. Now, if we just go back to Pelletier for a second, like I like that I saw something out of him tonight. Again, he only played like 5 minutes. So Garnet Hathaway being back is going to make a world of difference because Garnet Hathaway, he's a solid fourth line player.
Absolutely. He's a very good fourth line.
And I think Bowles, Hathaway, and Pelletier, while not exciting, it at least can make some stuff happen. As Charlie was saying, they could play 10 minutes.
It at least gives the coach an opportunity to be like, here's 10 minutes instead of 5, and a few more shifts. Like, we're not talking about all the time in the world, but I don't think anyone looks at Pelletier and is like, second liner one day.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it.
He is going to probably be a bottom 6 guy, but you also need them to be effective. Like we were just saying about Bobby Brink. Like, yeah, maybe he is just a third liner, but if he's a really good one that contributes on the power play a little bit, like that's a role. You have a role filled. You can check a box. One less thing we need. And as much as the focus for me is, yeah, man, they need a 1C. I think they absolutely need at least 1 or 2 more defensemen. You do need to check boxes on other things too. Like you need a good deep team that's versatile. Guys who can do multiple things. You need to be able to win in multiple ways. Hopefully they have some of those boxes checked with some of these guys.
I really hope so. I feel really good about Brink right now. I think he's shown great progress this year. Even outside of tonight, like he has just seemed like more of an NHL player than he did at any point last season. He seems like a guy that a coach can trust, that isn't a complete lie, because we've seen him be a disaster defensively at times. Like just be controller unplugged, player just drifting off into nothing. I don't know what the heck he was doing in some plays.
But 2 blocks and 3 hits tonight. Like I don't know what else you can ask out of a guy.
He was spicy tonight, and I love
on top of 3 points.
That's some Flyers hockey.
All right, before we get to the super chats, I got to tell you about our Die Hard special right now. That's right. For only $36 for your first year, limited time intro offer, $36. That breaks down to like what, $3 a month? You get all the benefits of being a diehard right now at allphly.com. Access to our Discord, a discount on merch and events, and of course, you can read all of our diehard content written by our all-star roster of writers. Check it out right now. And like I told you yesterday, this is like kind of an internal competition here at the company. We want to beat all the other cities, obviously. But even here at PHLY, you see that graphic? It's clearly Eagles-centric. How cool would it be if everybody signed up for this through a Charlie article and we actually beat the team that just won the Super Bowl and is now in free agency right now and has like, one of the best beat writers in the city, Zach Berman, pumping out all this awesome content. Like, what if we took them down? Flyers fans, I know we are the chip on our shoulder, little brother of the city, fourth sport. It's a niche. Let's prove we're a little more than that. Allphly.com.
You can do it, friends.
Sign up to be a diehard right now. All right, Brennan, let's hit those super chats. All right, we have quite a few, it looks like. Lead it off with Prince Punk. Prince Punk has become, recently one of our more regular contributors here. I love to see it. We'll rewatch this show later, but hell yeah, I love it. I love
Rock on, Prince Punk.
I love it. Yeah, give us multiple viewings. Love to see it. All right, from Gary B says, woo! Absolutely. It is. It's never a bad time for a woo. You're right.
I love woo.
I was a little torn on the intro. I was like, I don't know. Like, kind of was hoping they would lose in regulation.
Michkov did this. I mean, you got to woo.
When it's a 3-point night for Bobby Brink, when Michkov scores in the shootout.
There's a lot of good stuff tonight, folks.
Yeah, well,
being honest.
Allow yourself to enjoy it, I guess, is my message to me. So I return your woo, Gary B. All right, from first one. First, of course, Vince. Why not us?
Why not us, Vince?
Because of the standings, Vince. Because
time's running out.
Yeah, Pittsburgh won in regulation tonight, so that's kind of good for us.
There
even though we get the 2 points, they're still right there with us. We don't really pull much ahead. Gotta get behind the Pens. That at least gets them to 6. Would love to be in the top 5, but
they can do it.
increase those lottery odds
They
a little
still
bit.
have the worst goaltending tandem in the league. They
It's
can do
really,
it.
I mean, that's, it's a real highlight of what this team's goaltending is when Ersson goes out, puts up an 850. You're like, he wasn't bad tonight.
Pretty good.
Yeah, not too shabby, Ersson. But the goaltending just is what it is this season. It's been bad. All right, first one here from JH says, winning in this economy, good fight from the boys. Shame we didn't get our Michkov goal or Bobby Hattie, though. Where are you on a hat trick watch? How do you like the hat trick alert, whatever?
It's Jinx City right there. I don't like it.
I appreciate knowing that when a player has 2 goals, them telling me reminds me that the next one is a special event. I don't know how I would be able to figure that out without the hat trick alert.
You got to be smart about sports, and that's how you be smart. That's how you educate people.
I do.
I'm not like overtly superstitious, but I've heard Chris Long say this before. But I am stitious, and that's
good.
That's how I feel about this. It just feels like you're asking for the jinx. All right, I'm the guy who, when Roy Halladay was throwing the perfect game while the Flyers were playing Stanley Cup Final Game 1, I just started showing the box score to people at the bar on my phone without saying any. I just tapped and I'm like, look at that. No, look again.
I had no idea because I was in a booth at Pizza Hut managing, and I just told everyone, leave me alone while I watch the Flyers.
I had a much better night.
And a waitress came up to me and was like, Roy Halladay just threw a perfect game. It's like, what do you mean?
What do you mean?
He had it was a shutout. My boyfriend just said perfect game. It's like, what? And I'm watching him throwing stuff in the dining room.
And the Flyers lost 1-0 or
totally
something.
Missed. I think that was the 6-5 game 1.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was game 1. It was game 1. It was just
I'm just losing my mind.
I was at McGill's.
Completely missed it.
And the TV started slowly turning to the Phillies, but it was 50-50. It was glorious.
All right. This next one here, another from JH, says, Gritty did a satanic ritual to stop them from trading TK. Just normal Gritty things. Something
that could be. They already traded his best friend in Scott Lawton.
Something happened to TK.
I agree.
When I
was Gritty's satanic ritual feeding ice cream to Ashley.
That was funny and weird. Which is Gritty. I mean, that's not shocking.
That is Gritty to see.
Wingston is a really good mascot name. Wingston is funny. I was unaware
the Wings
that
mascot
the Wings
is
mascot.
Wingston,
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Wingston.
All right, another one here from JH. This super chat is so Steve never does a Minnesota accent.
Oh yeah. Oh, you did it wrong.
I didn't think it was bad. That's basically what Midwest people sound like to me.
I didn't try to do it before, so.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what he heard before, but now I'm doing the entire podcast tomorrow in that. So.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
Check out Flyperbole.
Yeah.
From Michkov tilt counter. I still don't have a tally, but this was not good for the tank. They weren't going to go 0-20. Now, one thing
You're not catching the Sharks anyway. The Sharks are hot garbage.
Yeah, I was hoping to get into that top 5. It's still very much doable with 15 games left. You look at this roster, and it's like, man, when Garnett Hathaway comes back, they're going to really have something, I did like Mish getting mixed up in front of the net, though. He kind of grabbed the dude by the collar.
That was after they knocked down Sanheim, right?
Yeah, he doesn't back down.
That dude was a half a foot taller than him, and Mish is like, I will bury you.
Before we wrap up the super chats, just want to say we appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. Just a few more super chats here before we get out. This one from Adam S. Did fans really think the Flyers wouldn't win another game for the rest of the season? This is what I was just thinking with the last one. Not good for the tank is, I assumed they were going to win the Chicago game, and they have a pretty easy, consider they're in a little gauntlet right now. And then it gets
lose
easy.
Those Chicago games.
And
then
they
love to lose one you expect them to win.
And then it gets easier, and it's you can kind of say they're going to win some of these. This was an minus 210, obvious loss. And it's that's one of the losses I was counting on. So from that regard, I do understand.
Well, when they beat the Lightning earlier this season,
also
I saw Fedotov was starting that game, okay? And I said, I'm going to put down a bunch of money on Tampa Bay money line tonight. And then they won. So I learned my lesson. I didn't put any money on Tampa Bay money line tonight.
The Flyers are great for upsets either way.
Yes.
Like if they're a
Don't
favorite,
bet on the Flyers.
I'm
just kidding. Bet 365.
Yeah, just don't bet on the Flyers. Bet on dumb stuff like I do and lose those as well.
Bet on the other. Bet on the good teams
bet
to
on
win. Bet on the
bet
Jets.
on all the other teams.
Bet on the Caps.
All right, from what's it say? David and Heather Nance. Our first super chat. Konecny should have had that shootout goal. Glad we finally got a win. There's still hope. LOL. Have a great night. Thank you for your very first super chat, David and Heather. Appreciate you joining us. That shootout goal. Maybe he needs a night off. Can you imagine the response when he gets scratched? That would be something.
We do have the maniac fans that did truly expect them to lose out for the rest of the season. So I don't want the response from that. It's just not, it wouldn't be rational.
It would be really funny. Timbo Slice here says, why not us? LOL, but seriously, nice shootout win. Yeah, listen, they're going to lose a vast majority of these final 15. They beat the Lightning. That's cool. Enjoy Bobby Brink's night. Enjoy Michkov's celebration.
Life's too short to not enjoy a Bobby Brink 3-point night.
It's going to be a lot of losses. Yeah. I wouldn't concern ourselves with that for the rest of the year.
We got half a month till baseball season still. We got to amuse ourselves somehow.
All right, and finally here from Kate Alt, it says, I fear that Mish can't fight. I think he can.
I don't want him to, though.
I would like to see him go a couple of times. I don't need him to go
maybe Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
Because he's his same height. I
Brad Marchand knows how to fight. That's the problem.
Can he fight with Nick Delorier there to step in if he has to?
I would like to see him fight another skill guy in a good, meaningful, a Stanley Cup final, Le Cavalier, Aginla style fight.
I don't think he's backing down is the thing.
No.
He does not back down.
No.
Mish is tenacious.
I feel like he wants one.
Tenacious, I feel like he wants over there. I love him.
I feel like he wants one fight before his rookie year's up.
He seems like the kind of guy who would get a bloody nose and cackle at you, Fight Club style.
He seems absolutely like Russian machine doesn't break sort of guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's it. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers postgame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We'll be back here tomorrow. It's going to be Kelly and I at 4 p.m., so make sure you tune in for that. Follow us right here on YouTube. Hit the reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. Follow the podcast. Just search PHLY Flyers and check out Steve on Flyperbole, doing great stuff over there at Broad Street Hockey. All right, that's it. I am Bill Matz. That is Steve Jaco. Until tomorrow, let's go Flyers.
We all silly like the mayor.